Any average viewer who stumbles upon the amazing world of Gumball might just think it's another kid's show, but beneath the surface lies some of the darkest episodes in cartoon history, with episodes that dive into existential horror, episodes that question the very nature of our reality, and so much more. Today, we're gonna go over the 10 darkest episodes of the show, starting with the puppets. And guess what? The people behind Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared helped make it, so yeah, this is gonna be disturbing. The episode starts with Gumball and Darwin digging through their attic when they find a box of creepy old puppets. Gumball wants nothing to do with them, but Darwin doesn't listen. He secretly takes the puppets and hides them in his pockets, even though he doesn't have pockets. Once Gumball leaves, Darwin starts playing with them, naming them Frank and Howdy, and while he voices them himself, he somehow gaslights himself into promising to never take them off again. That's something so dumb that only Darwin could do. The boys then go to school where Darwin struggles with simple things, like eating, because, well, his hands are puppets now, and the puppets, they start reacting, and their eyes narrow in anger when Gumball makes fun of the puppets at the table. Something is seriously wrong. Then, Darwin starts insulting Gumball, but he looks uncomfortable, like he's not in control. Gumball, thinking Darwin is just a jerk, slaps him with his meat. Wait, pause, not like that. But later that night, things get even weirder. Darwin goes so far as to take a bath with the puppets, keeping his promise to always be with them. But when Gumball catches him talking to the puppets attack him. At this point, Darwin isn't acting like Darwin anymore. Gumball fights back, rips the puppets off him, and throws them in the trash. But things aren't gonna end that easy, because later that night, we see the puppets crawl out of the trash, this time with their own voices different from the ones that Darwin gave him.
Okay, the bedroom's just at the top of the stairs.
Wait.
Back inside the house, we hear banging sounds. So naturally, Gumball goes to check it out. And when he goes downstairs, he finds one of the puppets smashing his game console. And who's holding the puppets now? Well, it's still Darwin, but something's different this time. The puppets claim Darwin isn't talking anymore. He's in their world now. And the only way to get him back, Gumball has to enter the puppet world. So he puts on the Grady puppet, and he gets transported into the world. And this instantly gives me Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared vibes. Gumball himself is now a puppet. Something about the colorful world is just so unsettling, when you know, in reality, it's just a mask for the true horror behind it. So Gumball walks around exploring this imaginary world, recognizing a lot of the objects he sees with eyes as toys from his childhood. But then, we finally get to the house that Darwin's in, where he's joined by the Frank and Howdy puppet that are now life-sized. This has to be one of the most disturbing visuals I have ever seen in this show. Everything about it symbolizes that Darwin is trapped here forever, with no hope of ever escaping. The fact that it's masked in a pure, childish appearance only makes it even more terrifying. Anyways, Gumball comes barging in to try to save Darwin, until Grady slowly comes in and explains that this is all a setup. They close the doors, trapping Gumball and Darwin in the empty room. And finally, we get to see the true horror of this world, as we watch the puppets now play with Gumball and Darwin, explaining their plans to torture them for eternity. Luckily, Darwin found a loose string, which dismantled all of the puppets that were controlling them, and we get some very uncomfortable scenes of the puppets breaking. Gumball and Darwin then realize that this whole place is just powered by their imagination, so they blow it up and escape. Later that day, they host a yard sale and sell the puppets to a random kid, passing the horrors of this episode onto the next generation. Truly a wholesome ending. The idea of toys coming alive and consuming your soul in their world and playing with you for all of eternity while torturing you is horrifying. But this next episode brings the horror to another level. At number 9, we have The Downer. This episode kicks off with Gumball waking up in the absolute worst mood of his life. And like any reasonable person, he decides to spread that negativity to everyone else. But then, in the most main character moment possible, Gumball wishes that everyone would disappear so he could finally be alone. And guess what? It actually works. His family literally vanishes in front of his eyes. No family, no friends, no classmates, no people, just Gumball in an empty, apocalyptic ruins of Elmore. This episode dives into the horror of something called a liminal space, which is based off of a location that usually has a lot of people, like a school, but a liminal space is specifically when that place is empty. There is something really creepy about that in my opinion. After realizing that everything is gone, Gumball is thriving. He runs through the streets, screaming at the top of his lungs, eating whatever he wants, and doing dumb nonsense with zero consequences, truly living the dream. But after about 5 minutes, reality sets in, and this is actually terrifying. The town is just wrong. Things are a little too quiet. The buildings are all abandoned, and even the background music is unsettling. Gumball realizes that maybe wishing away all of his existence maybe wasn't the best idea, but this is where things start to take a creepy turn. He goes out of his house and looks around the street to see that the Joyful Burger is now renamed to the Misery Burger. Captain Crunch is now renamed to Captain Crud. The economy is ruined. Well, that one actually isn't much of a surprise. But then Gumball's distorted face we've seen throughout the episode comes back and makes him start saying evil things. And shortly after this, the darkness starts invading the world and taking over Elmore. Gumball tries his best to run away until he's backed into a corner of his house with nothing but darkness surrounding him. Wait a second, he didn't die or anything. Everything's just dark now. So Gumball starts exploring until he squeezes something squishy. Hey, yo, what is my boy touching? Okay, thankfully it's just the sofa. Anyway, Gumball then starts thinking of ways to escape the darkness until he remembers an inspirational quote from his dad. When you're feeling down, you need to get back into the swing of things. Boom, just like that, everything goes back to normal. But it turns out the entire time Gumball was just sleepwalking. Hey, wait a second, I knew he wasn't just squeezing the sofa. This episode is legitimately terrifying. Like, why did Cartoon Network allow this level of psychological horror in a kid's show? The abandoned city, the void, this could have been a full-on creepypasta. 10 out of 10 episode, but I would not want to experience this in real life. But coming in at number 8, we have The Burden. This episode starts in Principal Brown's office, and something immediately feels off. The man is in the middle of waxing his own fur. And to make it even worse, Gumball and Darwin are now scarred for life because they watched that whole thing. But before they can erase this out of their memories, Principal Brown gives them the task to watch the school hamster, Chris Morris. And he says they have to take care of him over the weekend. And the creators of the show give us a literal 10-second uncut shot of Chris Morris just staring at the camera menacingly. I already know bro's up to no good. This thing looks like it's seen horrors beyond human understanding. Gumball and Darwin, being the terrible pet sitters they are, take him away and now have to watch him for the whole weekend. Fast forward to the next day and Gumball is on a date with Penny, trying to impress her as usual. But for some reason, he decides to bring Chris Morris on their date. Why? I have no idea. Maybe he thought hamster sitting was a flex? They go on to keep taking care of Chris Morris for the rest of the day. But then, because of plot convenience and pure stupidity, it turns out that they accidentally got Chris Morris confused with a ball of fur from Principal Brown. Yes, they have been literally taking care of a hairball all day. Meanwhile, the real Chris Morris is out in the wild and they have no idea what he's doing. So they rush to school to try to find the real Chris Morris. But it won't be easy. This hamster is playing 4D chess. He slinks through the shadows like some sort of demonic rodent ninja. The boys catch up to him, but every time they think they have him, he's already 3 steps ahead, or more realistically 3 steps behind. Bro walks at 1 mile per hour, but somehow Chris Morris just keeps getting away. So after a long chase, they end up with Chris Morris in Principal Brown's office. But right when the cops are about to bust Gumball and Darwin, Chris Morris decides to save them by waving them into a cabinet he's hiding in. Gumball and Darwin are confused by why he would do this, but it turns out Chris Morris didn't want Gumball and Darwin to be trapped in prison, just like Chris Morris has been trapped in a cage for his entire life. Wow, who knew such a dark video could have such a humble ending? So Gumball and Darwin thank Chris Morris for his good deed and decide to release him back in the wild. He'll get there eventually. It might take him a while. While we're waiting for Chris Morris to get back into nature, let's talk about the 7th darkest episode, The Limit. This episode starts off completely normal. normal, which in Gumball logic means things are about to go off the rails. The Watterson family is going grocery shopping, and Nicole tells the kids one simple rule: no buying candy. Now, you already know this isn't gonna end well, especially when Richard's in the episode. Gumball, Darwin, and Anais, being the gremlins they are, immediately start plotting on how to get their hands on some candy. But unfortunately, all of these attempts fail. At this point, they're desperate, so they go full-on rebellion mode and declare war on their mob. Nicole reaches her breaking point. Like, literally, she fully snaps, becoming a monster. She chases them through the store, and the animation begins shifting. Her movements get unnatural, and her expressions become more exaggerated and monstrous. The kids realize they've made a terrible mistake. They push their mom to the absolute limit. Get it? At one point, she even gets tased by a security guard, but it doesn't even affect her? Oh yeah, and she also looks at the dude menacingly and ages him by like 50 years. I wonder how that works. At this point, this is just terrifying. Nicole has ascended far beyond cartoon logic, but eventually, it seems that Gumball and Richard are concerned, with Nicole running directly at them. That's until she runs into the ceramic wrap that they placed there, and then Darwin and Anais come in the other side, placing ceramic wrap there too, completely trapping Nicole like a caged animal. This is until she looks into the mirror and sees what she's become. After realizing her mistake, she apologizes to her family and goes back home. But the kids did a favor for the guy and still end up getting candy at the end. So I guess it was all worth it. I wouldn't ever want to be on Nicole Watterson's bad side. Ever. No. But coming in at number 6, we have The Dream. The episode starts with Gumball waking up in the middle of the night furious. Why? Because he just had the worst dream ever. In this dream, Darwin stole his girlfriend. Yes, Darwin, his best friend, his brother, his own flesh and blood. Wait, are they even related? Gumball wakes up seething with betrayal. And like any logical person, he decides to hold a grudge against Darwin in real life. Yup, because that makes sense. The next morning, Gumball is big mad. Gumball finally snaps and accuses Darwin of stealing Penny. And Darwin responds by saying, "Bro, it was just a dream." But Gumball doesn't care. In his mind, Darwin has already committed the ultimate betrayal. This is where things kind of get creepy. Instead of snapping out of it, Gumball spirals deeper into his delusion. The way this episode plays out, it's almost like Gumball is losing his grip on reality. So then, Gumball gets the genius idea to test Penny's loyalty. He offers her a blue and an orange cupcake, waiting for her to choose the blue one because, well, I mean, obviously Gumball's blue. But she ends up picking the orange one, which upset Gumball, so he shoves the blue one in her mouth to make her eat it. But this was a big mistake though, because she's actually allergic to the color blue. So then Gumball's presented with another problem, giving her the blue pills or the orange pills to fix her allergies. And bro obviously picks the blue ones because he didn't look close enough and see that they were actually thumbtacks. The man just sabotaged himself. So to settle all this, they make a device to go into each other's dream to settle the beef, which, my god, they dream about some dark stuff. But when they finally get into the right dream, Gumball replaces Penny's face with Sussy. Now, Darwin is mad, and the cycle starts all over again. At this point, the horror isn't even about the dreams anymore. It's about how one irrational thought could completely destroy everything. Gumball realizes Darwin was never trying to steal Penny. He ruined his own relationship for no reason, and he let a dream turn into reality. That's pretty dark. But now we're on to the top 5, and if you thought these videos were already dark, you've literally seen nothing. Coming in at number 5, we have The Scam. This episode starts with Miss Zaman running a Halloween-themed show and tell event. Everyone's bringing in basic stuff, like costumes, but then Gumball steps up and decides to tell a real scary story. And boy, does he go all in. He starts talking about Gargoth, a demon beast who was banished to the underworld. But if you say his name too many times, he comes back, or at least that's what he says. Naturally, Gumball, being the absolute menace that he is, says Gargoth like 20 times in a row. And then stuff starts floating, chairs move on their own, the lights flicker, the class starts losing it. But here's the thing, it's all fake. Turns out this was just a scam set up by Carrie, Gumball, and Darwin. Carrie, being a literal ghost, is using her powers to fake a haunting. And the boys, they're using it to scam everyone out of their Halloween Halloween candy, which is just absolutely devious. At first, everything is going perfectly on their candy heist. Carrie haunts the school, scaring the life out of their classmates. And then Gumball and Darwin show up as paranormal ghost hunters, quote-unquote banishing the demon. The terrified students pay them in candy, and they start racking up sweets just like they hacked Halloween. Even Darwin, who felt bad at first, fully commits, because mostly he's trying to impress Carrie. At this point, they think they pulled off the perfect scam, but then they summon Gargoth. But this isn't Carrie doing it this time. This is real, and it's absolutely terrifying. Gargoth is a massive, shadowy demon with glowing red eyes and an endless hunger for candy, or souls, probably both. Gumball and Darwin are now absolutely panicking because they scammed their way into this. But now, they can't scam their way out. Desperate to fix their mistake, the boys try to bribe Gargoth with candy. But here's the problem. He wants more. He's hungry. They dump all of the candy they scammed, but it's not enough. Gargoth demands something greater. And then Carrie steps forward. She offers herself as bride. Excuse me? Yes, Carrie literally agrees to marry a demon to save everyone. But just before the ceremony is complete, Gumball finds one last piece of candy and throws it at Gargoth, causing him to explode. The demon is defeated, the scam is over, everyone is safe. But at what cost? Alright, this next episode doesn't just get dark. It destroys the very fabric of our reality and leaves us with one of the most terrifying cliffhangers in Gumball history. Coming in at number 4, we have The Disaster, where we start off way too happy, which, as we all know, means something horrible is about to happen. The Watterson family is singing a joyful road trip song on their way to the mall. They're laughing, vibing, everything feels suspiciously perfect. And then, boom, the car gets hit hard. But this seems kind of unnatural. Why would this happen? Well, the person behind this is no one other than Rob, holding a remote that literally contains powers to control the universe. If you guys don't know, Rob is basically the main villain of the Gumball universe, and it's safe to say that Gumball and Rob have had their fair share of beef in the past. Now, Rob has always been an outcast, a forgotten character from the void who remembers things no one else does. But this time, he's had enough. He's done with being ignored, done with being the loser, done with playing by all the rules of a world that forgot him, and now he's taking control. He pauses time mid-crash, leaving the Wattersons frozen in midair like puppets. He messes with the subtitles, making Darwin think that Gumball insulted him. He turns off parental controls, making Nicole and Richard go at each other's throats. He rewinds Gumball's love life, erasing all of his progress with Penny, and so much more. At first, Gumball doesn't realize what's happening, but then he starts noticing things. This isn't a prank anymore. This is Rob playing God. And worst of all, no one else realizes it. Once Gumball finally realizes that his entire world is being rewritten, he confronts Rob. At one point, Rob grabs the remote and aims it directly at Gumball. And this is where he reveals the truth. Rob isn't just trying to ruin Gumball's life, he's also trying to erase him from existence. Rob is tired of being the one left behind, tired of being the forgotten character from the void, and tired of being the bad guy. So what's his solution? Making Gumball the forgotten one. And just when he's about to use the remote to push Gumball into the void, conveniently, his remote dies. But to make sure he gets rid of Gumball, he throws the remote into the void, making Gumball have to go in there if he wants any chance of saving his family. And then the episode leaves off on a cliffhanger. But luckily, it picks back up and gets even darker in the third darkest Gumball episode, the rerun. Gumball and the Wattersons are back in the car, singing that same road trip song, heading to the mall. But something is wrong. Gumball remembers everything. Gumball isn't the only one stuck in the loop. Rob remembers too. And unlike Gumball, he is not happy about it. Dude is losing his mind. Rob used the remote to turn Nicole and Richard into babies. And because they're babies, that means that Anais, Gumball, and Darwin can't exist anymore. So when Anais tries to attack Rob, she literally gets deleted. And if that wasn't bad enough, Darwin starts reverting to his original fish form, gasping for breath, looking like a shriveled up orange. With everything breaking apart, Gumball finally catches up to Rob. They both know the loop is about to restart again. Rob is done running. He is not going back to the void. He'd rather end everything here than getting erased again. But then they have a long anime style fight, and eventually Gumball ends up winning and finally pushing Rob into the void. Bro basically just won at life. But then, for some reason, he starts to feel bad, so he hops into the void to try to save Rob. Gumball, you had it so good, man. Why would you do this? But the problem is, Gumball realizes he's also starting to fade away, so he has to act as quick as he can to save Rob. Gumball eventually catches up to Rob in the void right when he was about to fade away, and then they rewind, bringing everything back to normal, leaving Gumball with a little bit of a different perception of Rob. But now we're on to the second darkest Gumball episode of all time, The Signal. We start with Gumball and Darwin at the mall, just messing around. Darwin is trying on hats, looking for the perfect drip, and Gumball, being a supportive best friend, tries to give his opinion. But when he opens his mouth, he starts glitching, like full-on video game broken, corrupted data glitching. His voice stutters, his words come out wrong, and Darwin just thinks he's being insulted. So naturally, Darwin gets mad and storms off, while Gumball just stands there flickering in and out of existence. Back at home, things don't get any better. The Watersons are just chilling, but the TV is on no signal. Richard, being the tech genius that he is, tries fixing it by literally just hitting it. Classic Richard. Meanwhile, Gumball is still glitching, and he doesn't know why. He tries to make it up to Darwin for calling him ugly earlier, but this backfires horribly because now Darwin starts glitching and looking really weird. And when Gumball points this out, this upsets Darwin even more. It's really strange how only Gumball is able to see these glitches. And then it gets even weirder. The show itself starts to break. Scenes cut in and out at random, characters swap voices, objects start disappearing and reappearing. Things just start getting really weird. They continue to argue until Richard sees that they're upset and offers to go get him an ice cream. I mean, them an ice cream. Yeah, Richard just wanted ice cream. This all seems normal until their reality starts absolutely breaking and just randomly glitching around different time zones. They even teleport into a part of time where Richard isn't even driving the car. At this point, the glitches are actually apparent to Darwin, and they're experiencing all this really weird, uncanny stuff together. And after a bunch of really strange things I did not need to see, they end up back at the mall where it all started, where it turns out the whole episode was just one massive fourth wall break. Gumball and Darwin find out that they're actually just TV show characters. Imagine living your whole life to just find out that you're a cartoon character. That's gotta really mess you up. But this episode at the #1 spot definitely messed me up as a child. The darkest Gumball episode of all time is The Joy. This episode already starts with a really weird vibe. When we see eerie red text saying Monday, 7:53 a.m. This is nothing like we've ever seen in the show before, so this already threw me off when I was first watching it. The episode starts with Gumball and Darwin dragging themselves to breakfast, looking like they just rolled out of bed on a Monday morning. Richard, being a good supportive dad, offers them a wonder hug, claiming it's packed with all the happiness in the world. Gumball and Darwin are skeptical, but Richard doesn't give them a choice. He pulls them into a massive bear hug, and boom, a rainbow-colored mushroom cloud erupts from their house. Yeah, things just got pretty weird. They then go to school, where they see more of this suspicious red text. Miss Saman is monitoring the school's cameras, getting pleasure from all the typical Monday misery of her students. But then she spots Gumball and Darwin, and they're smiling on a Monday? Unacceptable. So she barges into the classroom to find Gumball and Darwin on a full-on auto-tune singing mode.
Stop begging me to stop! But my heart!
Miss Saman is horrified. To her, this isn't joy. This is a disease. Determined to contain this quote-unquote outbreak, she quarantines the boys in the nurse's office. But things spiral out of control when Gumball and Darwin's joy becomes contagious, spreading through hugs and physical contact. One by one, the students and staff are infected, turning the school into a scene straight out of a zombie apocalypse, except with more rainbows and unsettling buzzing cheerfulness. Something is really off about this for some reason. Miss Saman retreats to her office, watching in horror as the joy virus spreads. Desperate, she discovers that playing Beethoven temporarily calms the infected. Armed with a cassette player, she navigates the chaotic halls, trying to avoid the overly affectionate horde. But her efforts are all for nothing, as Gumball and Darwin corner her, and despite her attempts to fend them off, she's overwhelmed. And in her final moments before succumbing to the joy, she records herself declaring the story has come to a happy ending, before bursting into manic laughter and rainbow liquid spewing out of her mouth. And no, this didn't even turn out to be a dream or anything. So I guess this actually happened in the show? The fact this didn't get a proper ending just adds to the uncanny nature of this episode. Well, those were the 10 darkest Gumball episodes. I just started the channel and I have so much more insane content planned for you guys in the future. So I just ask one thing, subscribe. Oh, what, you thought you could just ignore me? Come on, bro. I see that you didn't subscribe. Yeah, there you go, that's better.